My Little Pony: A New Generation. I think it's safe to say that one of the biggest and most surprisingly impactful animated shows of the 2010 decade was My Little Pony: Friendship is Magic, the fourth generation of the popular Hasbro franchise. While it may not be a major award-winning series, it was an unexpected phenomenon that not only broke the mold of being appealing towards far more than its typical target demographic of little girls, but the fan base behind it helped set the standard of the modern and massive version of what we know today as the animation community, for better or for worse. But sadly, all good things must come to an end, and the most beloved iteration of the ponies aired its final episode on October 12, 2019, giving the show a proper conclusion and a happily ever after to the fan-favorite characters. But just because the story of the main six is over, that doesn't mean the end of the franchise altogether. Far from it, actually. The pony world is a big world, and there is still much more to explore, especially when time flies and dawns a new period of ponies with new characters, new adventures, and new conflicts amongst each other. So now that we're being introduced to the next generation of little ponies, will friendship still be magic with them? Or did they trade all their charm and appeal for a third dimension? Let's find out. The story. Now, before I get into this movie, I just would like to clarify that in case you don't know me, I've never been a brony and I've never really watched Friendship is Magic. It's not that I hate the show or anything like that. In fact, I do respect and admire what it did and its cultural impact. I just never really got into it and never had the time to sit and watch all those episodes. So consider this a review from the perspective of someone outside of the pony community. With that said, the goal of a new generation is not just to start, well, a new generation, but also to convey the message of unity over bigotry and segregation. That there is no magic unless we settle our differences and all come together. Of course, this is a good message to deliver to audiences, especially in recent times when society has become more divided than ever. However, as it does have a good heart and the best intentions to continue the franchise's tradition of presenting the importance of friendship, how it tries to deliver that message is the movie's biggest problem. In a way, the film puts too much focus on the message itself that it kind of neglects the storytelling. The plot itself is about Sunny going on a journey to find a way to reunite the Earth ponies with the unicorns and the Pegasi, and gains a bit of help from new friends that she meets along the way. Because it wants to deliver the message so badly, it leaves the story to feel easily predictable to know how every outcome will happen, and a bit unoriginal with the kind of typically dull friendship narrative it wants to tell. And to make matters worse, the picture is so headstrong about telling its moral about unity that even the execution of that is problematic, constantly feeling like it's forcing the message to its audience in an uncomfortable manner than to let the story itself say it naturally. And if there was one way that it could have solved its issue, it should have implemented some subtlety. Without it, it results in what they show here with a story that's too predictable to be engaging and a message with the finesse of a thrown brick.
Fear is not your friend, but the unicorns and Pegasi can be.
What? That is not what I meant.
However, while the writing has a serious lack of creative magic, there are some other factors that do try to redeem itself and find a way to be engaging outside of the journey. As it introduces the next generation of ponies, it does a good job to present the world building to show this new age where ponies are separated from each other and lost all their magic, while fear and prejudice is what fuels them to continue their lives, with the only reason to maintain them is the way it is, along with a history of connecting to its familiar past to show how they once all lived in harmony. That, and it did take notes from the last generation to implement some strong humor. So while it may not be engaging at times, it does do a decent job to be entertaining to enjoy the other aspects.
What else do unicorns say about Earth ponies?
Oh, just that you're lazy and not the brightest crystals in the forest.
Charming.
Nope, just those three.
The movie definitely has ideas to introduce this new generation, and some of them work out well. It's just the story itself and how it handles its message here is anything but friendly. The animation. Taking a property that is recognizably 2D and bring it to the third dimension is no easy task. Sure, the movie does have the advantage of starting fresh with the franchise, and they technically already have been in 3D since their beginnings with the toys, but they still have to find a way to make it look recognizably My Little Pony while simultaneously make something new. It's also extra challenging when the last generation established a very stylized look that redefined how people literally see the franchise. And yet, with all the feature's shortcomings, the best thing that this movie did is craft its animation. It's not just good, but highly impressive how the ponies entered the realm of computer animation. The most notable aspect is from the designs that truly define how they have evolved. On one hand, they still contain many of the recognizable elements of the average pony, from their silhouettes, their style of hair, and their facial structure. However, there is still another part that is noticeably different from before in order to properly translate the designs onto CG, including shrinking the eyes a bit and giving them a lot more texture, where their fur appears soft and more reminiscent to the toys they're based on, with noticeable flowing hair and tail, along with the rock-hard horns on the unicorns' heads and the feathers on the wings of the Pegasi. And I might as well mention this now, but the movie also brought in the franchise's tradition of making this as colorful as possible. Not just with the characters, but the world around them as well is just bursting with vibrant colors to constantly keep this as visually pleasing as possible. Not to mention also knowing how to play with colors and the lighting as well to set the mood of the moment or to use it to help emphasize the situation.
Well, here we are, guys. The Villa Izzy.
Wow.
Speaking of what's around the ponies, that's also another component where a lot of hard work was noticeably put in. In this new pony-filled land, it is a lot more reminiscent to our modern times with a social media and advertising influence that surrounds the area, while each place has a prominent theme like the waterside of Maritime Bay, the forest of Bridlewood, and the city skies of Zephyr Heights. Even with a bad story, at least the movie does give the viewer the opportunity to immerse themselves in these new areas and how they define who the ponies are. And as an added bonus, the movie does go that extra mile to make the most out of what it could do with its visuals, including the choreography of the musical numbers, a pretty intense climax, and even using some 2D in the opening with some surprise cameos. Regardless of how some may feel about the movie itself, one thing that I'm sure many can agree is that this new generation at least looks great. The characters. We may no longer follow the adventures of the main six, but we do have a new set of characters to meet that will carry the My Little Pony legacy and to see them discover the magic of friendship. In this case though, there is a bit of a complexity with how they were handled for the movie. The cast can be enjoyable, and I can see how they can end up with their own fan base based on their personalities, along with a strong set of voice actors who could really bring life to them in a manner that is both believable and fun.
Thank you, Zip. I never thought I'd see it again.
Yeah, I can be pretty sneaky when I want to be.
Nice. I'm only medium sneaky.
But their purpose for this feature does hold them back from truly showing off who they are. Or at least show off something that isn't generic. Sunny is the bright-eyed dreamer with an activist passion that is determined to reunite all the ponies to achieve peace. Izzy is like Pinkie Pie 2.0 as the bubbly and naive unicorn that is overwhelmingly optimistic. Hitch is Sunny's lifelong friend who is often doubtful of her mission and tries to still act like the sheriff of the bay, but still ends up helping her anyways. And Zip and Pip are the princesses of Zephyr Heights, where one is tired of lying to her people, and the other is a pop star fueled by the love of her fans. Along the way, they do meet some trouble that try to maintain the status quo, like Alphabiddle, the game master of Bridalwood Forest who always wins a bet, and Sprout, the villain of the feature who finally has his moment to be in charge as the new sheriff while Hitch is out to find Sunny and tries to turn Maritime Bay into a dictatorship, ready to wage war on the unicorns and Pegasi. And like any nationalist on the verge of fascism, he's also an insecure and clueless mama's boy.
Back to work, Glitter Cupcake.
It is my factory, after all, dear.
It's my town, Mommy. Your son's now Emperor of Maritime Bay.
Like I said before, this is a complex situation with them. I won't say that these are bad characters at all. Technically, this movie is just an introduction to them. And I can imagine how they'll have more opportunities to have their personality shine in whatever series they'll have planned. I'm sure there is more to them, and the tastes that we have here are fun and do help with the humor and the engagement to see them all become friends. It's just that in the context of the movie alone, there's not a whole lot to them where they're just basic archetypes and the usual kind of tropes that are normally found in these types of stories and kids' films. In a way, it's their roles for the movie that is unappealingly generic. However, I could still see how these characters not only have charm, but will become great personalities in later projects. The songs. If the last generation can make fans love them even more with show-stopping musical numbers, then who's to say the new one can't try to do that either? Yes, this movie is also a musical with a soundtrack filled with pop tunes to enhance Sunny's adventure. Now, you might be thinking that this sounds like it's one of those recent animated films that try to appeal to kids by making some bland pop songs in a desperate attempt to have them invested with the picture, right? Well, not really. I mean, yes, out of context, they seem like the kind of current songs that are safe to play on the radio, and they aren't necessarily as extravagant as those from a Disney film. But there is something different about them that actually works to the movie's advantage, and help make the viewing experience better. If you take a listen, you'll see how there's a bit more to them than one may assume.
Gonna be my day. Gonna be my day. Gonna be my day. Gonna be my track. When you're on track, I got your back. You can rely on me. I'm looking out for you.
Nervous, better get tense. Better not let them catch you blinking. You don't need a reason, fillies and gents. This is no time for sober thinking.
We got the light. We're coming in stronger. We're in it together. If you wanted to turn inside your mind, I know we're all a bunch of different breeds. Take away our wings and horns and we're just frightened steeds. So let's put aside our differences, cause what we need to win.
Unlike many pop song-filled movies, there's actually a sense that there was a motivation to make something meaningful with them. They each contain a strong sense of playfulness, and some contain this uplifting and inspiring tone to go out and do your best in order to make them fun. There are even a few, like Danger Danger and Fit Right In, that infuse other genres to give themselves a little twist, like rock and rap, respectively.
So we'll whip them up as we speak. Yeah, we looking Trey Magnifique. And with those rocks in our pockets, we'll reap the reward. And folks will be floored. We'll strike a new chord. Our magic restore.
And that's what makes these some of the more enjoyable and the better parts of the picture. They're not just made to hope that they could sell CDs and top charts, but more to make the movie fun. It also helps when it uses some of the film's strengths, like the humor, to connect more with the feature and to make them feel like they are integral to the story. Not to mention how the pop genre does fit quite well with the movie's modern setting to enhance the immersion. I understand that maybe this soundtrack may not be for everyone if they're not into today's music and they're not the most memorable numbers out there that can leave a major impact to the viewer, but they are still a fun addition that help make the movie a little more worthwhile to watch. Technically, this is much more than just a movie. This is the start of the next generation of a beloved franchise to introduce the new ponies that the fans will now follow. And in that regard, it made a good first impression. My Little Pony: A New Generation is a nice way to commence the next chapter of the franchise after Friendship is Magic. The movie itself does have some flaws that won't have it immediately win people over, like the weak writing that result in a generically bad story and uncreative roles for the cast. But what stands out more is the hard work to have this be a worthwhile successor to Gen 4 with beautiful animation, enjoyable personalities, and songs that can make the experience more fun. For My Little Pony fans, I don't think they'll have any trouble transitioning to the new generation and fall in love with Sunny and the gang. But for non-fans, I think it'll be a decently pleasant watch. It might not turn people into bronies and Pegasisters, but it will provide them with something fun. And I think that's the best way to put it with this movie. When you look ahead for what this means for the future of the franchise, this new generation is off to a good start.